Yeah, what fish would you put in there? I mean, ember tetras I think would look great in here, and that really suits that autumn vibe, but maybe that's a bit too much orange. Hi everyone, welcome to a new video. This is going to be focusing on this Aquascape here, an Aquascape Line 60, holds about 20 US gallons, 75 litres. This was originally set up as part of a workshop that I hosted here in my home a couple of months ago now. And on that topic, there is one slot left for my next workshop. I'll leave a link to the details in the pinned comments and description. Quite a lot of changes since it was originally set up. Do check out the original video. Again, I'll leave a link to that in the description. The main thing is I've changed the whole vibe by simply changing the background. It's got a light ground on it, which is an illuminated LED panel. However, it did have a blue kind of screen, and now I've changed it to orange. Really invokes this sense of autumn, which we're experiencing right now in the UK. And I think it's really lovely that we can kind of do this with our aquascapes. We can actually create a completely different vibe, and we can kind of integrate it with our larger environment, something that I've not really considered before. And it's a very easy thing to do with a background. You know, it's a very dominant kind of high impact colour, which really does change the whole kind of, like I say, the vibe of the aquascape, the theme of the aquascape. The fish in here are platies, which are basically babies from the Iwagumi aquascape, which will be stripped down very soon for a Dutch style layout. Please also consider checking out that long form video, about 45 minutes, a deep dive on that aquascape and why I'm going to try a Dutch aquascape. Very exciting times. I will be using some of the plants from that aquascape and putting them into here. Just a brief overview. The plants in here at the moment, the background is Limnophila. It's either Aromatica or Hipporoides. I think it's Hipporoides, which is very similar to Aromatica, a bit easier. And yeah, it's a beautiful background stem plant. Isn't particularly fast growing, although I do have the light on quite low level. I don't want to encourage algae. We do have some build up of BBA already on some of the plants at the front. The Cryptoparva, some of the Anubias has some very tough kind of black stroke green algae on it. And there's BBA on the words, but I don't actually mind. I know that it's only a temporary thing just by giving it some TLC, tender loving care, over the next coming weeks. Plenty of water changes, not overfeeding the fish, regular fertiliser dosing, keeping an eye on the CO2. That algae will naturally die back on its own accord. I don't tend to use liquid carbon products such as Seachem Flourish XL or Easy Carbo. I prefer to do things naturally and let the plants fight the algae rather than chemicals. Main plant that I want to kind of change is the Hygrophila polysperma. That's this stem plant here and just about here. I did put it in there to act as a fast growing weed to help out with these early algae issues. If you have lots of fast growing plants in an aquarium, you feed those plants well and they grow healthily, algae becomes much less of a risk. So that's why they are in there. But it is time to remove them. I don't think they do look okay in there, but I want to improve the whole layout. So I'm going to put some Eriocaulon Vietnam from the Iwagumi scape to replace the Hygrophila polysperma. The Eriocaulon is a shade lover. It doesn't need strong lighting, and it will be a much more sustainable plant. Won't need trimming hardly ever at all. And I'll just do some other tidying up. I'm probably just going to leave the background stems for now. Might just trim a few and give you some kind of tips on how I maintain stem plants. Definitely give the glass a clean. I can actually see some Hydra, like this tiny little freshwater invertebrates that they're like tiny little jellyfish basically. And I'll try and get some macro footage of those because they're really interesting. They're normally a sign of a poorly maintained aquarium, so maybe that's a bit of a confession there. I haven't been maintaining this as much as I should have been. Yeah, other things to do. There is some moss that's kind of come detached and floated around elsewhere, so I'm not so much, that doesn't bother me so much. I quite like the natural look, you know, that's what moss does in nature. And as long as it doesn't look too unsightly, I'll probably just leave the moss kind of take over wherever it fancies. The Bucephalandra is doing quite well. The Anubias, like I say, is getting covered in algae. They're both very slow growers, and because we're not running strong lighting, that's just going to be really, really slow. The foreground is looking a little bit messy. I might remove all of these kind of pebbles, which I'm not sure if they add much to it or they look effective. Just have a little bit as an experiment. Siphon out any loose soil. It can definitely clean the glass. I can see lots of algae build up around here. Let's talk about the system very briefly. This is the Life Aqua Prime Pro LED light on loan from Aquarium Gardens. I will be replacing this with a Chihiros or Twin Star unit, undecided which brand to go for yet. Filtration is the Oase Biomaster 350 with the updates. So it's got the new inlet tube with the bigger holes and the new moulding, and it has the impeller cover which helps to prevent the air purging that you can get with Oase occasionally if you're not keeping them so well maintained. Do let me know in the comments if you would change the fish. I do like platies. I think they're fun and they're very easy, they're very hardy. They keep the surface very clean. You don't get any surface scum when you have platies, which is really cool. But yeah, what fish would you put in there? I mean, ember tetras I think would look great in here, and that really suits that autumn vibe, but maybe that's a bit too much orange. Maybe a bright blue fish to kind of contrast with that orange. I really do like that kind of teal and copper kind of contrast. I think that looks really beautiful. So yeah, I'm just gonna have a bit of fun maintaining it and messing around with the Aquascape, seeing what plants we can swap out and improve. So here we have the autumn Aquascape now fully maintained, a few plant changes. I did actually take some Cryptocoryne Nurii Rosen Maiden from Tropica, now available in 1-2 grow. The colour and the texture matches this autumn vibe perfectly. So I've just taken a few plantlets out of there. It's actually started to carpet in there, which is really interesting. And I've popped them in the mid-ground. I've mixed them up with some other crypts. There's Willisii, Parva, I think there's Cryptocoryne Manatee Green as well. So you can hopefully get the overall vibe. I think we've improved the layout by removing the Hygrophila polysperma, very bright green, not really in keeping with the autumn vibes. We've got dark greens, we've got the kind of dark green bluey purple of the Bucephalandra, we've got the Hygrophila araguayi Lancea in the centre here, used as an epiphyte. This is a beautiful orange brown colour as well, and of course the Limnophila hyperoides, which will need trimming and replanting. As you can see, some of the stems have already reached the surface and some are trying to actually grow out of the water. This is what most aquatic plants try to do. They're reaching for growing out of water because they get much better growth that way, more access to CO2, more access to light. So they do prefer to grow out of water. I'm really happy with the scape. It's really interesting to be able to completely change the whole impression of an aquascape just by changing that background lighting. This is the light ground. This was actually given to us, Ty and I, to support the Aquatic Habitats project. So very grateful to the light ground for supplying the illuminated background. There are other LED panels out there now with RGB, fully controllable colours. This one works differently with like a translucent film of different colours, so you can get that different colour effect. And I've actually used 3 sandwiched together to get the effect that I wanted, ranging from that sort of deep orange all the way down to sort of a bright green at the bottom. You can mess around, turn them upside down, and of course if you do have the RGB, you can play around to your heart's content. We did obviously a water change right at the end. Always do water changes right at the end of any maintenance process, because if by the nature of maintaining on the tank, disturbing the soil, the substrate, you tend to kick up a load of waste organics which can potentially trigger algae into the water column. So we dilute those with a big water change. Always add a dechlorinator, in my case the Oase dechlorinator, as part of the water change to obviously take out any harmful chlorine and chloramine from your tap water. Luckily I don't actually have much here from my mains water, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. So it's really going to enjoy watching this progress. Hopefully the algae will die back on its own accord. I'm in no rush to do that. That's one thing I've learned with aquascaping, that's patience. And that's a really useful thing to exercise with dealing with any algae issues. The temptation is just to go straight to a chemical or an algae eating fish or shrimp and deal with it that way. But in my opinion and my view and experience, if you focus on good aquarium maintenance, good horticulture practices, then the algae will naturally die back on its own accord. without too much intervention. So I think we'll do another video at some point about trimming the stems, and I'll leave this one here. Really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done so yet. And don't forget, there is one slot left for the home aquascape workshop. Set up a complete nanocube, 25 centimetre nanocube, that's about 10 inches, complete with hang on the back filter, ideal lighting for growing plants, substrate, hardscape, as many plants as you can imagine. Come to my place, 6 hours or so, we'll create a beautiful nano aquarium together. Take you through the whole process, of course, have lunch, and we'll actually get a lot of the materials from Aquarium Gardens, which is only 3 miles or 5 kilometres from my home. So it'll be a really great day. One slot left. And you can find the details of how to apply for that in the description. Okay, I'll say cheerio. Cheerio. Take care, see you on the next one.